All right, y'all, it is time to answer some of your questions that you sent in on social media. So let's see what we've got today. Let's see here. How do you know if you're making the right choice? I love this question. This is a really hard question, but a really good one. Because I'll tell you, the mental angst that I have experienced in different decisions in my life, some are big, some are small, everything in between, has led me down this path of really trying to dig in and research and understand the answer to this exact question. How do you know if you're making the right choice? First, I want to say that there's not a perfect formula. So I do believe that. I don't believe there's this perfect formula, one size fits all. If you do this, you know for sure it's always the right choice. I will also say that as a believer, I have experienced and certainly witnessed God will lead you in ways that seem maybe even at the time wrong, seem confusing, they're impractical, you can't quite explain it. You're like, I don't know how this is gonna work out, but God is leading me here. This doesn't make any sense, but God is leading me here. I feel like God's asking me to make this choice and this doesn't even make any logical sense. I can't rationalize it in my mind. So there's always that disclaimer as well, that there's not a perfect formula. And I believe that at times God will lead you in ways that seem a little crazy and weird. By the way, he did that a lot in the Bible as well. So you can take comfort in the fact that his ways are not our ways and he's not a formula God. With that in mind, I do think that there are certain signs or variables that you can consider to know if you're on the right track. The first thing to think about is which decision gives you peace. When you think about your options, you say, how do you know if you're making the right choice? Let's say you've got two options. You may have more than that. But let's say in this scenario, you have two options, whatever you're facing right now. And one of them makes you feel checked, makes you feel anxious, makes you feel nervous. Those are the feelings that rise up when you think about making that choice. The other choice makes you feel relief. It makes you feel a sense of peace. It makes you feel more at ease. It doesn't mean the choice is easy. It means you have an inner peace that there's something right about that is the right choice. I believe that's the Holy Spirit guiding you in the direction of God's will for your life. And again, the choice can be a weird one, a crazy one, an impractical one. I shared this recently on social media, but I felt about 8 months ago, God calling me to go to seminary. And y'all, that choice felt crazy. That commitment felt ridiculous. I have 3 young kids. I talk about time management and I don't have a lot of time, which is why I have to manage it well. And I was like, God, how would this ever work? That feels so overwhelming. It feels like it's for really smart people, really academic people, people that grew up in the church, people that know the Bible. This is so impractical. It's so illogical. I feel so unqualified. And through persistent pressing, through persistent nudging and urging, eventually, I said it out loud to my husband. And then I said it out loud to a friend. And then I started researching seminary schools that have online programs. And I started to take one step of faith after the other. The decisions in the path wasn't easy. And as I'm in school right now, reading, it's still not easy. But I feel a peace about it. I feel right about it. I felt relieved when I made the decision to submit and be obedient to that thing I felt God asking me to do, even though that path felt a little crazy at the time and still does. So when you think about the feelings that rise up in you, do you feel nervous, anxious, unsettled, checked in your spirit at a choice? Or do you feel relieved, where your shoulders relax like, that was the right thing? Where you feel a peace that doesn't even make sense? Because even if the path is hard, that peace is with you. So I'd say the first thing to think about is the feelings that rise up in you when you consider your choices. That can be a great factor to consider. Now, feelings aren't the end-all be-all, and our feelings can, Patsy Claremont says feelings don't have a brain. They're not always a great metric of reality, but it can be an indicator of what God is stirring in you. If you feel anxiety or you feel at peace at a certain decision. Another thing to consider is the counsel of people around you. So when you talk about this idea to people, are they affirming, people that are trustworthy, people that are close to you, people that, if you're a believer, that are also believers, that are in touch with the Spirit and God's speaking, calling, are those people in agreement? Again, this is not a one-size-fits-all. This is not an end-all, be-all where someone shoots down your business idea, which means it'll never work. That's not the way this works. But if you start to see a pattern of a lot of people that you trust are advising you to make this decision or advising you against this decision, that can be a clue that is either confirming or leading you in a different direction for that decision. I'll give you an example again with seminary. When I started saying that out loud to people, as crazy as it sounded to me, and even to the people I told, people that I love and trust, all of them pretty quickly were like, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that just makes sense for you. Yeah, I totally see that. They weren't just being nice. These are people that will shoot me straight, tell me the truth, and tell me when I'm going down a bad path. But the confirmation was almost unanimous of people that I love and trust going, yes, in agreement with that decision. So first, thinking about the feelings that rise up in you in either of these choices. And it can be a huge commitment like seminary, or it can be, what are we going to do Saturday afternoon? And some decisions are bigger and more important than others. Some have more bearing on your life than others. But when you start to think about the feelings that rise up in you, and you start to think about what the agreement of people around you is, that can really help you know if you're on the right path. Think about even something as small as Saturday afternoon plans. When you think about, Saturday afternoon, I think about taking my kids to the zoo. Does that sound exciting or exhausting? Maybe a little bit of both if you have kids. When you talk to your spouse and you say, hey, Saturday afternoon, do you want to take them to the zoo or just hang out at the house? What does your spouse say? Think about the feelings that rise up in you in any given decision and the people around you that you love and trust and how they feel and what they think about that decision can help you know if you're making the right choice. It's a great question. It's a hard one, to be honest. And like I said when I started, it's not a perfect formula, but I do think these two things can help you know if you're on the right track. Thanks so much for sending in your question, and I hope this helps.